From the Watergate Building in Washington, this is Hotline TV. Now here are Hotline editors John Mercurio and Amy Walter.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. I'm Amy Walter.
And I'm John Mercurio. This weekend, the Democratic candidates were at the Yearly Kos convention out in Chicago, where Hillary Clinton was asked about lobbyists. Let's take a look at what she had to say.
Senator Edwards has really a very straightforward question here, which is, will you continue to take money from lobbyists?
Yes,
or will you take his position?
I will,
Thank
because you know, a lot of those lobbyists, whether you like it or not, represent real Americans. They actually do. They represent nurses. They represent, social workers. They represent, they represent corporations that employ a lot of people. So, the idea that somehow a contribution is going to influence you, I just ask you to look at my record. I have been fighting for the same things. My core principles have not changed, but I do want to be the president for everybody, and I want to represent the entire country, and that is what I'm aiming to do in my campaign.
Thank you.
All right, Amy, the remark was a rare instance of Clinton being caught on the defensive during one of these early presidential debates. How did she manage to come across during this dust-up?
Well, it obviously was the story of the weekend, which was Barack Obama going on the offensive and getting a great applause line from, really his crowd. I mean, walking into a group of people who...
John Edwards' crowd, too.
John Edwards' crowd, too, which he got a great applause line as well. But I think we know this fundamentally is that the lobbyist tag is, while it may have some issue for her in a primary, the bottom line is she's already been established as the establishment candidate.
Sure,
so I don't know if it's just sort of further...
It was further entrenching her as the establishment candidate in a crowd of people who were certainly, not looking for the establishment candidate.
Absolutely.
So I agree with you. It's not really much she could do, but did she have to go as far as she did in sort of not just acknowledging the acceptance of all this money from lobbyists, but defending them? I mean, doing so in a way that essentially trying to humanize them. Say that they're just like doctors, lawyers, teachers, etc.
Here's the thing. I think that I would actually rather be in her position than somebody like a John Edwards or a Barack Obama say, well, I'm not taking lobbyist money. I'm not taking money from people who are ethically challenged. Remember, we have the whole go back and forth. Once you start down that line, what happens is that any time you get a contribution for anybody who is linked in some way, shape, or form with a lobbyist firm, married to one, whatever it is, you're going to have to constantly defend yourselves. I'd rather not have to defend myself as either a hypocrite or somebody who's not being consistent.
Or somebody like Obama who doesn't accept money from lobbyists but takes money from lobbyists' spouses or partners or people who work in the same firms.
I mean, you're just going to constantly be defending yourself and having to answer these questions all the time rather than just coming right out and saying, I take it, here's why, boom, done, let's end the conversation. Sort of making the black and white distinction, I think, makes it a lot easier than getting caught somewhere up in this gray. So,
interesting, though, that I thought not necessarily related to the Hillary lobbyist thing, but interesting, you didn't hear a lot out of a lot of the Cossacks or a lot of the Democratic candidates about Obama's comments on Pakistan. It was it was one of the major issues of the weekend in terms of Republicans were all over it. But in Chicago, you didn't hear a lot of talk about it, which I think really explains the level of support that he has, among the blogosphere. They didn't want to talk about it because they saw it as sort of a weakness of his, I think.
Right, and to highlight that, they didn't want to give Republicans more ammunition or really to undermine him among the liberal base.
Right.
So I thought it was interesting. Good point. Well, that does it for today. Please join us next time on Hotline TV.